Nehemiah was one man who stayed in the Persian kingdom. He even served the king as his cupbearer. One day, Nehemiah received a letter from his brother about the walls in ruins, how Jerusalem needed help. The king saw something was wrong with Nehemiah, and he asked him about it. Nehemiah responded with his troubles, his worries about his home, and the king allowed him to go back home and help them. Gathering materials and resources, Nehemiah started to his homeland. He started by seeing what needed to be done, and then starting a plan to rebuild the walls. Then he gathered the people, organized them into groups, and started the work. As they started building, two men, Tobiah and Sanballat, began to mock them. These men would say things to discourage them, to stop them from working. They tried telling the Jews that they were weak. They told them this was impossible. There was no way they could rebuild after all the walls have been turned to rubble. They told them if a fox ran up right now, what little they built would fall down. They should just give up. But the people didn't give up. They prayed to God and they kept building. Soon Tobiah and Sanballat were getting worried. They didn't want the Jews to protect themselves, so they made plans to attack the builders. When Nehemiah heard the plans, he organized guards to watch night and day. Even the builders had swords at their sides, ready to fight if an attack did come. But Tobiah and Sanballat saw the Jews were ready to fight, and they gave up their idea. When the walls were complete, but the gates were still not installed, Tobiah and Sanballat sent letters to Nehemiah, inviting him to meet with them outside the city. They sent 5 letters to convince him, but he stayed where he was, attending to the work. Finally, they sent a letter threatening to tell the king that the Jews were building walls to start a rebellion. But Nehemiah knew these accusations were false, and the king would not turn against them. Finally, after 52 days, the walls and gates were complete, and Jerusalem was safe. The enemies around Jerusalem knew this work came from God. The Jews were afraid and discouraged as they built, but they trusted God and praised Him for getting them through it. Whenever you have a wall to build, or any good thing that must be done, and you feel like the task before you is impossible and not worth it, know that God is in control. He has power and authority over all the rulers of the world. He wants us to come to Him in time of need.